Welcome to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Building Supply. I'm your host, Tom Magruder. If you like today's show, go to aroundthehouse.tv, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and our weekly newsletter. In this segment, Around the House, Tommy Carpenter, Director of Emergency Management for Lake County, will be here to discuss this year's hurricane preparedness. Now, we've been dealing with a lot this year thus far, the COVID-19 outbreak, and now they're forecasting a potentially pretty bad hurricane season. So to help you along the way, we've got Tommy here, and he's going to discuss the things you need to know so that if we are threatened by a hurricane, you know what to do and the right questions to ask. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tommy Carpenter. He's Director of Emergency Management here in Lake County. Good afternoon, Tommy. How are you doing?
I'm well, Tom. Thank you for the invitation.
Tommy, you've been busy this year, but before we dive into the hurricane preparedness topic, take a few minutes to tell us about yourself and the Lake County Emergency Management Group.
Certainly. The Office of Emergency Management for Lake County, we have a staff of 4, and our responsibilities, we're the ones that develop and maintain the county's comprehensive emergency management plan, so we can manage any of the disasters that come along. It gives us a template to do so. The county's local mitigation strategy. We also work in the special needs registry, so our most vulnerable population, we work year-round with the Lake County School Board about getting hurricane shelter schools as hurricane shelters ready. And then for the last 66 days, we've been working with our partners at the Department of Health through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, this COVID-19 pandemic has been a challenge for everybody, but more so probably for your group because generally this time of year is met with a lot of planning, getting ready for hurricane season. How has this pandemic affected your department?
We've been busy. We've worked every day, and I think the most challenging issue, not only for us, but for leadership and even the public at large, is just how quickly information changes. This COVID-19, the coronavirus, is a novel virus. It's new, so we're learning about it, and I think everybody is trying to get as much information as we can, and we can spend an entire day learning and planning, and then at the end of the day or the very next day, that information's changed or has been updated. So I think that's been the most challenging part.
And the odd thing is there could be other challenges because emergency management here in Lake County just doesn't handle hurricanes or pandemics. You know, you've had the Blue Rhino thing. Any emergency that happens, it dumps on you, doesn't it?
That we are involved, and so we work with our partners to work through each of those.
And fortunately, we hadn't had a terrorist attack or anything like that, but oh man, the year's not over, unfortunately. What is your message as it relates to citizens preparing for hurricane season this year? It just seems like nothing's normal. Hurricanes are never normal, but it seems it's going to be a challenge this year.
It could very well be a challenge in terms of everyone. The folks that do a good job in preparing, hopefully they've been getting that little bit as they go along. We know that some folks will wait till the last minute, so it may be a little bit more challenging for them to get the supplies that they need. I will say since 2016 we've had some kind of tropical storm since then. So in 2016 we had Matthew, 2017 Irma, 2018 we watched what Hurricane Michael did to the Panhandle, and then fortunately Dorian went the other way in 2019. So many of the residents are used to the preparing and the information and what they need to do. So this year, being toward the middle of May, really is a good time to begin preparing, and that each week get a little bit of the supplies that you're going to need. We don't encourage hoarding, but it's a good time to get a little bit of things right now.
Well, and that's the odd thing is we went so long with no threat, basically, and in the last 3 or 4 years, not only have we had threats, but from major hurricanes, the type, what I call our slab cleaners. You know, you really got to respect them. We're seeing some disturbing forecasts for hurricane season this year. Of course, no one can predict these things, but what's your level of concern as you look at these forecast numbers? Because they're grim, quite frankly.
We look at, typically we look at a couple different things. Colorado State University, where Dr. Gray was, now managed by Dr. Klotzbach. They come out usually in April, and they provided a forecast, and so they're talking about 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes, where you typically see a normal year is 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. But if you look at the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, which will come out the end of May, beginning of June, They don't give numbers, they give ranges. And in the last 3-4 years, what actually has happened compared to the forecast is we're on the upper end of the range, and those major hurricanes are much stronger than what we've seen in the past.
I saw one forecast predicted 24 named storms. I sure hope that's not doesn't come to fruition. You've been busy the last 4 hurricane seasons. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned, and I think the state of Florida's learned from these challenges of the last 4 hurricane seasons?
Is that they're unpredictable. I think the National Weather Service, Hurricane Center, they do a phenomenal job of forecasting, but we've seen the last several years of where we get a forecast that we think is going to happen and it changes. With Irma, we saw it coming to the west coast of Florida, the east coast of Florida, up the middle of Florida, and I think people watch that and they behave accordingly. They get fuel. One of the lessons learned about evacuation, we don't evacuate hundreds of miles, we evacuate tens of miles, and then you see a change in forecast, and that could change what somebody's plan is in terms of evacuation. So the thing is really how important it is to plan now, to have those things that you need, the personal items, hygiene items, medication, those things that you need for you, and just realize you have to be flexible. That a forecast is not set in stone, that what may have been said yesterday is not what's going to happen today or tomorrow, and just really the flexibility of what may come.
Lake and Sumter County is not on the coast, and in fact, I've read several reports that Lake County is the safest place in the state of Florida regarding hurricanes because it's dead in the center of the state. I guess we've been very fortunate. In fact, a lot of people don't believe this. Our highest gust of wind is still below 80 miles an hour here in Lake County, isn't it? Something like that. It
was for Hurricane Irma, and I believe it came from the Leesburg Airport from there, and I think it was either 64 or 68 miles per hour. And the center of Irma was about 40 miles west of Lake County, so that would have put it on the strong side in terms of where it was monitored. So we were very blessed.
So if you look at historic numbers, Lake County's been spared a lot. But as you think about hurricanes and the potency of these hurricanes, once again, we're not talking, I hate to say it sound cavalier, but 10 years ago, the average hurricane seemed like cutting across Florida was 100 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour. Now we're getting these 150s, 160. But thinking about these big major hurricanes, what concerns you? I know we're not in a coastal flooding area, but what concerns you the most here in Lake and Sumter County?
They're damaging, and it doesn't mean that they couldn't impact us. You look at Hurricane Michael in 2018, it's a tornado the size of a hurricane.
Right.
Same thing as Dorian in 2019. And if you look, we're only 50 miles from each coast. So one of those at that size and speed that come in, it may not impact us as a Category 5, but it could as a 2. Category 3, 110, 115 mile an hour sustained winds. That's not anything this county has seen in many, many, many years. So that does concern me.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in several generations. In fact, there's no recorded history of seeing it.
1960 was the last time, when you look at Hurricane Donna, that came up and actually went across Lake County, strong Category 2. So that's the last time we've seen a hurricane come through Lake County.
You've alluded to it earlier. Hurricane preparedness is key. We found out through this COVID-19 situation that supply chains get disrupted. There's issues with supplies and such as that. And I agree with you can't hoard, but you also have to prepare because if we have a hurricane, you have to prepare, I think, for the likelihood of 2 weeks of not having stores available. What are the things Lake County or Sumter County residents should have in their stockpile, and how should they prepare for these hurricanes?
I think, again, history for residents that have gone through it, that went through Matthew and Irma, and not so much impacted by Dorian, is how did it impact you then? And I agree, at least minimally 5-day supply of water. That's a gallon of water per person per day. If you have a well, then you know you're going to need more. If you have to flush a toilet or whatever you may need if you don't have power to your well. And that non-perishable food cans now come with a little pop top, which are nice, but if you don't, make sure you have a manual can opener. Hygiene products, whatever you're going to need for 2 weeks, including toilet paper or whatever you need to take care of yourself. Medications, make sure that you have your medications. And anything that you're going to need that's specific to you or family members, your pets, things that you can be self-contained for those 5 to 10 days, maybe even longer. We know folks in outlying areas and after Irma, it took a little bit longer to get the power on there because there weren't as many people, and they had to get the larger groups of folks done first before they could get out there.
But, you know, also part of that is, assortment of goods. Now you have to think about COVID supplies, because as we head into hurricane season 2020, there's little chance, in fact, there's practically zero chance that the pandemic will be resolved. And if you're being evacuated, you're going to have supplies along those lines. So as you build that kit, there are going to have to be items added to it. So as you think about your disaster kit, what would you include in that disaster kit, considering that we're going to be probably in the midst of a pandemic?
I think it's going back to where are you going to shelter? Are you sheltering with yourself, friends, family? Are you going to have other folks come in that are going to be there? So you may, if you have friends or family that come in, you may want to consider that social distancing. And so that means maybe folks stay in different rooms. If we are directly impacted, then we know that we want folks in a first level interior room, so maybe the masks if that are needed. If everyone's comfortable with everyone and they don't suspect anything, the cleaning's important. And so we know the Lysol and the Clorox wipes are at a premium right now. They're hard to find, but you still have bottled disinfectant. You have paper towels, you have towels. Make sure that you're cleaning. The hand washing is important. All the things we learned in kindergarten that we should do. Cover your mouth when you cough. Wash your hands frequently. Hand sanitizer is at a premium too. But if you use that all the time, it not only kills the bad bacteria, it kills the good bacteria. So it always goes back to hand washing, just doing those things to keep your environment clean.
One other issue, now I want to really touch on this. Prescriptions are a lot of things, a big deal for our seniors. And when we go under a hurricane watch and warning, the state activates some changes as far as prescriptions. Can you discuss that briefly?
I will. I'll read it to you right out of Florida statute. What it says, it talks about the person seeking the prescription refill resides in a county that is under a hurricane warning issued by the National Weather Service, is declared to be under a state of emergency in an executive order issued by the governor, or has activated its emergency operations center and its emergency management plan. So really those are the things that we look at. Once one of those thresholds are met, then folks can go back and get that additional refill.
So they can get the additional refills and there's no additional charges. Your same co-pays and all that apply. And a lot of times the governor, when the hurricane will approach, they'll say we're putting under state of emergency. So it's real important if you're a senior, just because you may be 2 weeks before you get your prescription that goes under state of emergency, you can get that prescription now, and it's very important. Because I do know last time we've had problems with people running out of medications, and that's something hard for you to handle, isn't it?
It is. We'll get those phone calls all the time, and we work with our Department of Health here in Lake County. It's phenomenal, and so they help as much as they can. Again, it's human nature, and sometimes I'm even guilty of it. It's the procrastination. We got to really think about this earlier rather than later, and then understand and really pay attention. We have great news sources, so we'll have a good idea when this is coming. Get those prescription refills done, get those supplies ahead of time.
Well, Tommy Carpenter, he's Director of Emergency Management here in Lake County. And I want to thank you for watching Around the House today. Be sure to go to aroundthehouse.tv to sign up for our YouTube channel and our weekly newsletter. Until next time, we will see you around the house.